Hey, this is Karen, Coach's Corner Chats, and on the episode today, I have Lee Cosgrove. Lee, where are you at and what are you up to?
I'm currently at a club called Elston Park in Leicestershire, in England. We've been there for 3 seasons now, I think. So the third season, my team is currently playing the under-17 age group, but they are an under-16 team, so we're kind of playing a year up for the first time. So we've jumped up an age group to challenge the players. So that's where we are at the minute. Just that single team doing it at the minute. So yes, that's where we're at.
And what level is the top team in England soccer?
At my club,
Yeah.
they're in what they call step 6, which is obviously non-league. Well, the players get paid, and they have something like between 100 and 300 people come to watch them weekly or fortnightly. So a good standard. They play around, if I say the Midlands area, they play in like the Leicester, Nottingham and Derbyshire League. So a good standard, and the first team are currently top of that division, doing very well at the minute. So yeah, it's a growing club, very successful in the Leicestershire area through all the age groups, and the adults team now, or the first team, are starting to progress higher. So with plans to go higher. So they're doing okay. It's a good level, and something probably for my players to aspire to or beyond. But yeah, something that we can kind of, it's within touching distance or reach for them. There's still a good step to get there, so they've still got some work to do if they want to kind of get there. But a good level to get to if they manage that. Some of the players.
Are you from the Leicestershire area? Is that where you were born and raised?
Yes, born and bred, and been here for 54 years. So yes, I know the area well. So yeah, brought up in Leicester, and so yeah, and just at Elston Park, my team, I started my football career back when it was black and white in 1978, because the club's 51 years old, 52 years old. So back in the 70s, they only had under 11 age groups. It didn't go down to what they do now, under 7. So the earliest you could play was like as a 10-year-old in the under 11. So I started my career there some, I don't know how many years is that? Is that 44 years ago? I've kind of gone full circle now, and I'm back to my boyhood club.
So, what is it like to have gone that full circle? Like, what was it like then versus what it is now?
Yeah, wow. Well, they're now a new. They're about half a mile away from the home that they were before, in the 70s. But I mean, youth football was a different game back in those days. I mean, we literally, as 10-year-old kids, played on full-size pitches. There was none of this 5-a-side, 7-a-side, 9-a-side. You were put on a full-size pitch that the men played on. So you can imagine what type of player that they looked for back in those days, and what kind of training you'd be. If you could kick the ball hard and high, you were a god. None of this technical stuff, and I mean some of the boggy pitches we played on back in those days. But yeah, I mean since then, them days, the club's grown massively, and youth football has since then. But yeah, I remember just being really cold, wet, kits that seemed to weigh a ton, oversized for me always. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I remember the club. I mean, they tout this for quite a lot, but Gary Lineker, if you've heard of Gary Lineker, England's third top goal scorer, he played at Elston Park as well. So that's their thing. So it's changed massively. And yeah, just football in general from then has just changed so much. Like they did. I mean, we'll talk about coaching, but coaching, I don't know what type of coaching I got back then. It wasn't like we're getting these days. But yeah, still, so they're still going strong. So it's good to be. It's weird how it came about, because my team was at another club in Leicester called OBLs, from under 6s to under 14s, I think. So we ended up moving to this Elston Park. So that was my going back. It wasn't deliberate. Just Elston Park for me have got the best facilities, pitches, floodlights, 3G, just great. You know, it's a great football club itself. So we went there for the development of our players, because we want to play good football, and the Elston Park pitches facilities are fantastic. So yeah, it was a bit of a weird one going back there. They're totally different people there now. So, but it's still the same club. I tell you what, it was up until last season or the season before, it was the same chairman. The chairman did 50 years, I think he did. So Bob Stretton, his name was, CBE or MBE, but he did 50 years there. So he was part of the reason why I went back to the club, because I was in dialogue with him. So he won't remember me from 50 years ago, but I remember him. So he's just hung up his boots, shall we say, as chairman. So yeah, he's one of the reasons why we went there. But he built a good club.
What is soccer? You hear about soccer in England being almost like a religion. Was that something even before you got to that U11 opportunity to play? Was it something that you were always constantly doing, or was it just something you kind of fell into?
I mean, back in them days, yeah. I mean, football was the big. Back in them days, all the kids played outside, which they don't do now. But all the kids where I lived, we all played outside every single night. And generally, football was the main one. We had school teams. We had school teams before under 11s, I think. So we played at school at break, at dinner times, and then you'd come home and you'd play different games at night. Not always football, but generally football. And then down the park, Saturdays and Sundays, it was just, well, for me, it was just everything that you did. It was always the thing you wanted to do, and it was just your favourite sport. But so many, I mean, loads of people play football now, but I don't think there's a street football like there used to be then, where back in those days, all the kids on your, we're going to call it an estate or street, they all played, different age groups. You know, it was all mixed in with the big kids, which taught you a lot back in them days to the physicality of it. So we all got mixed up in different age groups, bigger kids, smaller kids, and I mean, I just thought the whole world played football back in them days, you know, and there wasn't the football saturation that you see on the TV now. There wasn't much live football on there, so you just played. Everybody just played football. That's just how it was in them days. It was just, and my brother played as well. I've got an older year older. My brother Austin, he played as well and played at Elston Park, and yeah, that's what we did. We were your best mates. We just played football from till we got shouted in to go to bed or have a bath, maybe have a bath to split the evening up. But those were the days, I think. Great days.
Now, did you stay at Elston all the way through like your teen years?
No, I kind of. We played for under 11s, under 12. There wasn't under 12s in them days, I think. I think you jumped to under 13s. So I played there, and then I don't know why. I think I left to go and play with my mates where I lived in a place called Odeby. So there was an OBLs back in them days. So I went to there under 14s and kind of played through there, and then probably about 17 started playing men's football. From that age group, probably went to under 18s, I think, but then you kind of went to men's football. So yeah, Elston Park was for about 3 years, and then that was it up until recently. But played against them and over the years for different age groups and men's football as well. So, but yeah, a few years there. But there weren't so many clubs around in them days. There's hundreds of football clubs now, but there wasn't in them days.
As you got older, did you have aspirations to play like professionally or even beyond? Or was there a point in your playing days that you started thinking, you know what, maybe I'd like to try this coaching gig?
I think every young kid at that stage thought they all wanted to be a professional footballer, and in them days it certainly wasn't for the money, because I don't think they were on silly money. It was just, you wanted to be a professional footballer so you could play football every day. I think it was as simple as that. And I was okay, but there was players that I was okay, but I was never good enough to be a professional, and I probably kept wanting to be a professional for many years. But I don't know what year I'd kind of realised that this is not going to happen. But I just then enjoyed playing football and just tried to play the best of, the best level I could. But I was a good way short of being professional. And as for the coaching or managing, if we're going to split the two things up, managing and coaching, the managing came when I was about 22, 23. And that was really just a case of I wanted things to be done properly, just in more organisation than coaching. So I wasn't doing any coaching, it was just organising things like that, because I think whoever was in charge, I think my first men team, I just didn't do it properly, I don't think. So I quite liked, being involved and maybe having some ideas put forward. But at that level, the kind of team ran itself, and everybody had a chip in to see with their ideas and how the team should play and whatever. So it was basically collect subs, wash the kit, and make sure you had enough players. So that was managing back then. No coaching as such. It was just getting people there and trying to do our best. So,
how did you go about becoming a manager? How did you take that step to be able to say, hey, I think I can run things a little bit better, and get your foot in the door without like pushing people maybe the wrong way?
Well, I mean, the first manager's role was like, we pubs. You know what a pub is?
Mm-hmm.
A pub. There was hundreds of pub teams back then. So every pub in the village seems to have a pub team. So that was the first team, a team called the White Horse that was in Oadby, and I think another lad was running it, but I think he was spending the money, the subs elsewhere, maybe down the bookies or something, and not where he should have been paying pitch fees and stuff like that. So I think it was a case of he had to come out and we had to do it properly, because I think at one stage we got kicked off our pitch because he hadn't paid the pitch. You have to pay the council for the pitches. So I think that was that. So it wasn't by just a case we just needed to be organised, and I wanted my football to be organised and make sure it carried on. So that sense of responsibility, I suppose. But it was no desire to be any sort of coaching. It was just an organiser, shall we say. So more of a manager than coaching.
So then at what point do you make that transition from kind of overseeing things to then taking on planning sessions and running and actually coaching?
Well, I played for many years, and then so not managing for years, just playing to like, there was a thing called the senior league. I played a few years in senior league. Then I had a bad knee injury and kind of dropped down a little bit to the level I could play because of my physicality with my knee. And then again, the village that I live in now, I started managing their team at about 32, something like that. And that's really when we're going to call it coaching started. And that was just trying to make the sessions enjoyable and a bit of variety in there. I've not done any coaching badges at that stage, official coaching badges. And then they weren't, it wasn't a requirement. Anybody could run the teams at that level. So you didn't need any coaching badges. So it's just about making it enjoyable and doing things different, doing I'm going to call them drills, but doing drills that I'd learn. I was fortunate enough to play for a team where the manager was an ex-professional. He played for Leicester City. So he always kind of remember what he used to do with us and what they did. I mean, looking back now, it was some of the stuff was mainly running and strength stuff and all sorts of that. So you kind of take a little bit of what you remember from there, and then obviously YouTube was about then, I think. I can't remember, but just trying to find stuff and trying to make it interesting and kind of just, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was related to how the team played back then. It was more about just keeping it interesting and getting people fit as such. So that started about 32, that was. So that was the start of what I thought was a coach, but I wasn't then. I don't think. I was far from it.
So you mentioned the coaching badges and such. When did you decide that maybe I need to go and start taking some of those courses?
Well, that started once I've got my lad. It's my lad's team that I run now. So once he was born, I was just hoping that he was into football. So I forced him into football basically, and said, "You're going to like football." And we kind of went along as I think it's 4 or 5. We went along to a club called OB Owls, and he kind of got on and enjoyed it. And then when they get to, they don't have teams at under 6s, but under 6, that's then when the parents start to run the sessions for the club. They have like a Saturday morning academy, and I knew the chairman at the club, so he'd already twisted me arm and told me I was going to be running some of the sessions on a Saturday morning. And then when in England, if it's like a charter standard club, if you want to be a coach, you have to do a level 1. So in readiness to take on the under 7 team, I did the level 1 coaching badge as that. And that really from there, although that wasn't a great experience, I will admit, the level 1, that was the start of the coaching journey, shall we, the official coaching journey.
What was it about that experience? Not necessarily the bad part, but what was it about the good part that got you like, oh, I need some more of this and I enjoy this?
Well, I mean, I think we're going to call it now the old level 1, because I think it's all changed, gone online. So the old level 1, they had some great games on there, some great drills, shall we say, and just seeing them pan out and you just open your eyes up to different practices and stuff like that. Some of them are fantastic, quite simple, but you could still use them now to a good level, but you just add bits in there and bring them on. So seeing them and the organisation and stuff like that just kind of, it just kind of opened your eyes up and you thought, okay, I can do this little, instead of it all being line drills and stuff like that, it was some great games on there. I'm just trying to think some of the names, but Find a Friend, and people will know what that means, but some great drills on there, and that was kind of the opening to then take back to your club and use within your club. And I was still doing men's football then, coaching then, so that was kind of the one. Just thought, I quite enjoy this. The bad side, not the bad. I'm not going to say his name, but the tutor, and I think loads of people will say the courses can be made or broken by the tutor that you get. And the tutor on there, I think he'd kind of got the that he wasn't doing a high level course because he wasn't allowed, and he was going through the motions a little bit. And I think we kind of butted heads a little bit because he told me I was asking too many questions, which, but I was just curious. So I was asking too many questions, and he just didn't look like he'd got any enthusiasm for it. Loads of the coaches on there, I still see some of them now, were great, but he just looked like he just didn't want to be there and he wanted to be somewhere else. So that kind of not put me off a little bit, but it was a bit disappointing. And then just as I did the level 1, we had a thing called the youth modules. I don't know whether you've ever heard of them, but the youth modules. These were like the level 1 and the level 2 were the FA courses, were quite aimed at more the older age groups back then. But the youth modules were brought in, I think they were quite new then, and they were aimed at like the younger age groups. And I did my youth module 1 straight after my level 1, and my youth module 2 with a chap called John Griffiths. Now, John Griffiths, I think the last thing I know he was doing the England under 17 women's teams. he was an absolute fantastic coach, and like it was wow. This was that's what I want to be. That's coaching. It was him that like started the fires burning, shall we say? Some of the he wasn't going rogue. He was bringing some drills in himself or adapting drills that were just endless of progressions, and you know how he built them up. He was an absolute fan, and he ended up going up obviously to he's now an FA coach. So having him was the thing that went. Now that's what a coach should be. That's people who was on there with him, you had to think carefully when you put your hand up to ask a question, because you had to make sure it was a good question and it was on topic. I said he wouldn't have you, but you'd have to. His knowledge was unbelievable. His knowledge of how the brain worked and how people learnt, and it wasn't just drills and stuff like that. He had the overall package, and he inspired me to say that's who I want to be like, and that's what I considered to be a coach. So he was fantastic.
What you mentioned kind of pushing your son into playing soccer, what have you? What has been that experience of coaching your own son?
Ooh, well, I mean, do you do what? Have you got a son yourself that you coach, Kim?
Yes, I have two boys and a daughter. I've coached all three.
Right. Okay. Well, this is common ground for you then, in common knowledge.
Yes.
An absolute roller coaster of all sorts of emotions. I mean, it's now been 12 years, 10 years, all sorts of, when in them early days when it's cold and they haven't got the right gear on, they're crying, they want to go, they don't seem to be interested sometimes, they haven't got the enthusiasm, but we kind of get through that stage, and then it's been fantastic. I must say it's been a fantastic, and our relationship's so much better for that process that we've done. But it's got better the last few years, but them early years of trying. I mean, I think my lad's a good footballer, and so he's kind of, thankfully, I would say that as he's got better, I've stayed with him, and he's kept me at the team I've managed to coach at a good level. And I'm not sure how I would feel if he wasn't very good. I don't know whether I'd continue to do that. I don't know whether that's the wrong thing to say, but I've been fortunate. I think he's a good player. But yeah, we've tested each other over the time, especially as when results have kind of come into it, and things have, he's either made mistakes or whatever. But I mean, we've won and lost together. It's a fantastic experience. I'd like to say we've won more than we've lost, but it's been testing at times, but fantastic most of the time. I've really enjoyed it. I mean, that Miles, his name is, he's probably been taken off and been put sub more times than any other player, just because he's the coach's son. And sometimes it's easier to do that, and you beat yourself up for that, but just sometimes it's easier to do that than bring somebody else's son off who's going to moan at you afterwards, because then that's why he took my son off. So I take my lad off, but he knows the rules. My son, he's been good, and he still loves football, so hopefully he's enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed it.
Is it hard at times, even like after the game, when you get in the car, to kind of break away from coach mode and become dad mode? How do you balance that kind of piece?
I think as he's got to understand the game more, we probably talk about the more technical side of it, the more detailed side, not the emotional side of it. But I think in the formative years when he's not understood, and my emotions have, and he's not understood. Some of them have been interesting journeys, shall we say. Some quiet ones. We've had some quiet ones over the time, and but yeah, I think they can be tough. But now I think it's far more informed now. My son watches and picks up a lot of stuff, and he knows the game, and he knows how we want to play, and we're talking there. So it's more of a tactical kind of talk now. He's normally on his phone, not interested. So it's me that's doing the talking, but it's some kind of sort of chat just to calm me down or just get things off my chest. But he listens and he has an input. But I mean, if you've had some interesting journeys over the time. It's got better with time, I think. You know when to say something, and I think as he's got emotionally older, he doesn't carry the football on. So he gets disappointed with himself sometimes if he's made a mistake. But yeah, we're pretty good now. And I like to talk. I like to talk with him. He kind of understands the game as well. So he picks the things up that I think, and it's good. Sometimes he gives you that on the pitch. You know what we don't feel sometimes or see. He can tell you that. And I go, well, I didn't notice that. Oh yeah. I thought we were doing this, or we were comfortable, or we knew they were going to score, or just something like that. So it gives you another bit of information from the pitch that we didn't get. So, but we're good. We never fall out anymore. Not now.
You mentioned earlier the difference between being at the club and now coaching again, and how coaching has changed. The players are different. Even mentioning your son being on a phone, you talked about YouTube. How much of an impact has having access to YouTube and Twitter and some of these social media platforms been for you and your coaching?
Well, I think it was. I mean, I think I've been on Twitter 5 years or something. So I think YouTube was fantastic when you first started, and checking things out and watching. I think it's been a massive help to me. When you want some inspiration or just trying to get some fresh ideas, it's been good. So I think that was the original starter for me of finding things out that I couldn't see elsewhere. I've always been one that's gone to watch other coaches. I love observing other coaches. So I've always gone out there to find other stuff as well. So YouTube has been really helpful. Obviously the courses that you do have been really helpful, and learning stuff from there as well. And doing a variety of courses. I've done a few different courses, not just the FA ones. So they've been really helpful finding things out. And then, Twitter. Again, Twitter's been very helpful, and not just for, we're going to call them drills again, but drills, but just connections with people and meeting people, not even meeting them, but just connecting with people. You can see so much stuff on there; it's untrue. So it can't not be of a help, but sometimes it can be too much. You see too much going on, and you can't see the wood for the trees. So I think as you get more experience, you can watch something on Twitter and you go, no, I don't think so, or oh, that looks interesting. I think I can borrow that, shall we say? So it's been a massive help for coaches. I think definitely it must be. Certainly been a help for me with that. And I think with that as well, I think that's given you, and not only just the Xbox games, FIFA, is it? I think the kids are so much more aware now, visually being understanding the game. I don't think they're played nowhere near the hours that I've played by that age, actually playing the game, but they're more aware of the tactics and things. Like when we were kids, there weren't tactics. It was kick it long and do what you can, chase the ball down. But I think they're more aware of tactics now. So it's definitely, they've become more aware of football and it's how it's played, and it certainly helped us as coaches if we can. You can get saturation point, but I think it's been helpful, I should say.
Have you always been this, like, a curious type person, even as a youngster? You talked about, I asked a lot of questions to the point where the one instructor's like, all right, that's enough, Lee. And then you had to be really picky about when to ask for the other instructor, like what questions to ask. But it sounds like you're always constantly grabbing for, oh, I could use that. Like you even talked about the Twitter example, like I kind of like that, or I might be able to use this. Have you always been, even as a youth and just kind of going up, always been kind of curious and always that one kid that's always like, hey, wait a minute, what if?
Yeah, I think, I think, I think I love football. I love football, and then once you've kind of opened that box of coaching, of how it works, you want to know more. Now, I know plenty of coaches that have done their level one and gone, that's it, that's enough. I've got what I need. But I've always felt that I want to know more for my knowledge, my understanding. Some of it you want to kind of rise yourself up and prove that you can be a good coach. So getting good information from there. A lot of it's been, I've always worked on, if I'm a good coach, the better coach I am, I'm hopefully more I'm going to help my son. But I think it's just, the more you know, the more you want to know. I think it's just, that's within you as a person, whether that's football or that might be music for some people. People so searching for music or all sorts. If it's your passion, I think you want to know more, don't you? And you want to find out more. And then as you open one door, then something else appears and that appears, and it's just curiosity to kind of do that. And the questions is for understanding. If something's of interest to you, for me to then use it, I want to know how it works and the finer point. So you go asking questions and, explain that to me. So you've kind of got it. So it sinks into your head. So you think, I'm going to learn, I'm going to remember that. So that's where the curiosity comes. And I think there's lots of coaches like that. They just want to keep learning. And although you think you know the game by now, you don't. The more you know, the less you seem to know. If you know what I mean. There's so much in front of you. You just think, I didn't realise that. So we just keep going and it's keep yourself interested as well. I think, if I'm not a full-time coach, so I'm not doing it day in, day out. But after 12 years, shall we say, 10, 12 years, you've got to keep yourself interested. So you want to find out new stuff. Else, if you're going through your emotions yourself, then you lose that love, don't you, to want to do it and get out in the cold and do things better. So that's the curiosity for me.
The next thing that I was going to ask about is, so on Twitter, you have this hashtag Sunday Share. So you've
Yeah.
gone from like taking information in. Why now do you then like literally actually share it? And how did Sunday Share even come to be?
Right. The Sunday Share. Okay. Well, listen, it wasn't. I mean, I've told the story a little bit in tweets and stuff, but it certainly wasn't by design. There was no great light bulb moment of, you know what, let's do this thing and take it there. It was literally, the fact of the matter was, in February 21, we were in lockdown. I can't remember the exact stage of lockdown, but we weren't doing any football. So I think we were doing Zoom meetings with the kids. There was no football allowed. So one Saturday, believe it or not, in February 21, I just had a drill. Twitter was fantastic then during lockdown for just going through. Even weren't doing any football, you were still talking football and opinions and stuff like that. So I've got a load of drills that I've just laminated myself. So I put one on there and I thought, I was bored really. I'll put one on Twitter. Here's a positional play game, I think it was. And because it was a Saturday, for some reason, I just thought, that's Saturday Share. So I put the Saturday Share. A couple of people liked it and this, that, and the other, and that was that. So then a week later, or 8 days later, still in lockdown, I did another drill. And then it was the Sunday Share, hashtag Sunday Share. Just for a rhyming thing, really. Expected nothing of it. A couple of people liked it. And I think it was another week later, I did another one. And there's a chap called Rob Porter on Twitter. May know Rob, very popular on Twitter. He then must have commented and said, you know what, I'll share one as well. And I think I said to him, well, just put that hashtag Sunday Share on and then we'll do that. And it kind of just went from him doing it and joining me. And then we did it the next week and he did another one and somebody else did it. And it kind of went from there, really. But it wasn't by design to do anything. It was just boredom in lockdown. just to get some conversations going, some opinions going. And from there, it just kind of went from there. And then people started to join us and stuff like that, and post stuff, or just comment on it or retweet it. So it kind of went from there. And then before we knew it, well, before I knew it, it was a weekly thing. And it just kind of went from there, really. And it just kind of took off to a certain extent there. And then it became too big in the end for me, because it was me on my own on a Sunday, spending like 18 hours just trawling through Twitter trying to keep up with it and stuff like that. So yeah, it wasn't a great design. It just kind of took off then, and then loads of people joining me every week, and it kind of went from there. And it kind of took a life of its own, and went on, and then became what it is now. And in the story of it was that we must have come out of lockdown and gone back to the football. And then I think I carried on through the summer, and then we started the next season at the August or September. But it was just taking too much of my time to just there was hundreds of them. Honestly, I was sitting there for like an hour on blocks, just, because the whole idea was to make it work. I had to comment on every single Sunday share or retweet it, because that got people's name out there, or not name out there, but it just spread it out there. And I think one of the ideas of the Sunday Share was that, that people like to get likes. We all want to get likes, don't we, numbers and stuff. So I had to comment on every one. I'd put a little, great drill, love this one, and retweet it. And then I'd look back and they'd get good numbers, and that means they would come back again and share again. So, but yeah, by the end of the September, it was just too much. It just taken over my Sundays. Now we were trying to play Sundays. I'm my wife, and I've got 2 kids. Obviously, my head was in hashtag Sunday Share land. It kind of got away from me a little bit. So I tried to stop it. Then I just tweeted one time, that's the end. It's taken it. I didn't think it'd carry on its own, but I was going to leave it to its own devices, shall we say. So I kind of tweeted that. And then, when I said that I was going to end, I got, some fantastic comments, brilliant, and I've loved it. And, a couple of people say, oh, you got to carry on. And then a couple of people contacted me and almost wanted to take it off my hands, because it would got such a good name for itself. And I was like, well, hang on a minute, that's mine. I kind of got a bit territorial and a bit like, well, hang on a minute. So I thought about it, and then from there, Peter Prickett, Peter, the bearded coach, he does all the three versus 3 books. He's now one of the admin on the Sunday Share. We had a conversation, and he was saying, you can't stop it, Lee. You're the first person that's done this, and it's stuck, and it's continued, and it's people have bought into it. And I said, I just haven't got the time. It's just too. He said, well, what about if you got some help? And I went, oh, okay, what do you mean by that? He said, what happens if 2 or 3 of us did it and we shared the workload? I went, right, okay, well, that sounds okay. So from there, and we gave it its own home there, which was like September last year. So Peter Prickett, Rob Porter joined us, and then I asked Hannah Duncan. We thought we'll get a female on there, because trying to get some more female coaches sharing with us and join us. So then we did it, and I think we launched it about September last year. And even the first day when we did it, my phone was going nuts, and people following us. And I think now, last couple of weeks ago, it ticked over to 10,000 followers in just over that year. So it's just kind of carried on. We did it, and then we did in February this year was like the first anniversary, and I thought, let's do something just to celebrate it. The fact it's made it to a year, so we had a load of prizes. I got some very kind people donated some stuff, so we almost had a giveaway of books, bazooka goals, all sorts of stuff that went on. So that we kind of did that, not to get any more followers. The whole idea of it, we're not here to get followers. It's just we're just custodians of it, and people just follow us as it goes. So we got a load more followers then, but that wasn't the idea, and that's not the idea now, really. It's just kind of people just keep jumping on with us. So 10,000 is just like crazy that it's got to that sort of size. But it's a tough gig to keep it going. But it takes 4 of you to do it because it's such a busy day.
So kind of looking forward, you got Miles here growing up, and he's going to go off and do whatever. What is ahead for Lee? Like, do you start focusing on this, share Sunday and Sunday share and keep growing it? Maybe it ends up with a YouTube channel or its own website or something like that. Or are you going to continue to coach and focus on that? Or if Miles goes and plays, you just step back and become the dad and sit on the sidelines? Like, what's in 5-10 years, what's Lee got ahead for him?
A great question. Great questions there. For the Sunday share, I honestly don't know where it's going to end up and if there's any direction on it. There's no real great master plan for sure. We had one of the great things we did on the Sunday share, the FA England Learning website. They started to join us on the Sunday share, which was like a proper wow moment. The FA were put on and put the Sunday share in there, and we were like, what is that? Wow, this is, that was a real marker for us. So, and they still continue to do it, and it's great that they continue to do it, and it's now giving them the chance to get to not loads more coaches, but just to get people to get far more traction on their Sunday share posts, and I think they do on any of the other posts. And so during this summer, I was in talks with a person from the FA we were going to try and get an FA a Sunday share meetup where and involved with the FA. We were going to try. It's not dead in the water, but we're going to try and do it at St George's Park, where England train. We're going to try and do it there, and then kind of invite or ask people to come. We wanted to do it because everything on the Sunday share is free. So we wanted to do it where it wasn't going to cost anybody. We had to control the numbers. So that's something that we might do. But literally, honestly, I don't know where it's going to end up. There's certainly no design to make money from it or do anything else. I think everybody that's involved with it now, there's Mark Lyons, Carl Wild, Rob, Peter, myself. I think we're just happy as it is. Just keep it ticking over, and they've everybody that's involved is busy with normal life and work and football. So that's it for the Sunday share. We'll get to the second birthday and we'll kind of see. So we'll just see with that. That will just go on, and why people want to do it, I think. And as for, I can't see myself stopping coaching. Miles will get to when they finish at under 18, when he goes into men's football, I'll see what he wants to do, and I'll see if he wants me involved. And if he wants me involved, then I'll get involved with whatever team or whatever level he goes to. I think that's his plan. He loves his football, so God knows when I'll finish. I'll go till he tells me, Dad, I think it's time for you to take a step back and get from the sideline. So I don't know. We'll just continue, get on with it and see where he wants to go. But it'll be where he goes, what level he wants to go, or where he wants to play. If it's a pub team or a park team, I'm hoping he'll play at a reasonable level. So, I'll go if he wants me to go, I'll go there. So that'll be the plan for that with him.
Lee, this chat has been awesome. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. This is Kieran with Coach's Corner Chats with Lee Cosgrove, #Sunday Share, and I'm out. Peace.
Cheers, Kieran. Thank you.